Hi, everybody. Before we get to another great interview, we could really use your help. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, recently named the Too Opinionated podcast one of its top 100 podcasts. This is a monumental feat for this program. We're a father and son team out of a small town in West Virginia, have been doing this for about 5 years. There's 15 million podcasts out there. About 40,000 of those get to the point that they're listed on IMDb. Out of those 40,000 out of the 15 million, we were ranked number 82. Something that we're just immensely proud of. We're so thankful for our listeners, our watchers, our fans. Thank you so, so much. If you would like to help us out, and we're asking for it, please. It's easy. It's really easy. It's free. If you go to IMDb, that's imdb.com, look up Too Opinionated Podcast, and just take a look at the page. That's all you have to do. I mean, you're welcome to look at the cast, look at the episodes so you can kind of see who's been on the program. Do whatever you want. But even just bringing up the page, imdb.com, Too Opinionated Podcast, bring up the page, look at it. That helps us so much. So please, if you can do anything, we would really appreciate that. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Love to have your subscription there. It's also free. And you can also check out our website, meistercon.com, where you'll find almost 700 episodes, audio and video, available on there. There's also a terrific blog from Brett, and it'll let you know anything that we have going on in studio, if we're covering a convention, if we're going on location, anything that we have going on will be on the website, meistercon.com. Thank you guys so, so much. We appreciate you so much. I can't express enough how appreciative we are of all of you. We never expected to do as well as we have, and that's all because of you. Thank you so much. Enjoy that interview. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated. So excited today. I've got actress, model, Jaime King with me. So welcome, Jaime.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm so good. I told you off camera, it's freezing cold in West Virginia today. We're surviving.
And see, you're live and you have a vibrant background, so you're doing good.
I haven't had very many. I told you I wasn't really creative, but this was my idea. I wanted a bunch of characters yelling Khan.
I love it.
James Kirk in Wrath of Khan. So that was a creative idea I had. A rare.
And I think you're a lot more creative than you say so.
So I was telling you it was cold here. So our studio, this building, it's heated by a boiler, which is underneath. And if you turn it on, it has those little radiators or whatever it is. If you turn it on, it's instantly so hot you can't stand it. So I try not to turn it on. So now I'm cold.
That's because it's so cold. It comes up through the floors.
It comes up. Well, it's got like one of those, it's like a unit, like because the building is from 1900. So it's old.
Oh, nice.
So the little units in each room, have the little dial on them that you have to twist to turn the heat on. The boiler's not that old, but every few decades they replace the boiler, but the unit 100 years.
Yeah.
So, but it gets so hot. I mean, you could, like, I'll turn it on, leave it on for 30 seconds. The room's heated up, and I just turn it back off.
Yep.
It's hot.
One and done. Then on again. You just need to have like a friend there that just kind of does that every few
minutes. like maybe every half hour, turn it on for 2 minutes, turn it back on.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
temp check. I mean. Temp check.
Now, I'm either too hot or too cold.
I feel like that often.
Well,
not in life. I mean, actually, physically, because because here the weather's it's in Los Angeles and it gets real hot and then it gets really cold.
Yeah,
and then everything else in between, it's kind of like can't make up its mind. Like my dog doesn't know when to shed or not to shed. It's like 2 days. It'll be like my dog's like shedding. The other days is like, oh, what's happening here? What's going on?
I know, and you've been getting like some actual rain this year.
Yes, thank God.
Yeah, it was needed.
Yep. Intense rain.
What would LA do if you got snow? It would have to just shut everything down. Probably be like
necessarily down just from rain.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
true.
it's like an
Nobody's used to
apocalypse
it.
when it rains here. It's like it truly it's like, oh God, it's raining. I had to get on the 405. It's like, but I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska, so I'm used to
You know cold.
thunderstorms and weather and
Yeah.
all of that stuff. But
I'm thinking Nebraska probably gets pretty cold.
It gets real cold. It gets really cold in the winter and really hot in the summer. But it's probably freezing there right now. I'm sure if I called a sibling, they'd be,
It'd be fun.
I don't miss shoveling snow or preheating the car or de-icing a vehicle.
I mean, at least now most cars have that like remote start.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's hell. But yeah, like if you don't have a garage to put a car in, you got to go out and scrape off the ice, and it takes you like half an hour to get the car ready to move.
Yep, exactly.
Well, I was thrilled to death to have you on the show. Thank you for the time.
I'm happy to be here. I'm happy.
Big day for the Too Opinionated podcast.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you.
So let's start this way. Tell me a little bit. I know you modeled, I think, before acting, but how did that come about? How'd you get into modeling? How'd that lead into acting?
I started modeling when I was about 13.
So young.
So young. And I was living in New York by the time I was 14.
Wow.
And I always loved cinema and I loved photography.
Yeah.
And I loved art. And growing up in the Midwest, it wasn't there really weren't a lot of ways to access that, especially in the early 90s,
Yeah.
And I wanted to be a filmmaker. So I was like, and I love fashion. I was like, okay, well, if there's some way in the world that I can become a model or get into the fashion industry, I'll be able to learn, photographic technique. And then see, because, at that time, when I did transition to acting, there really weren't many people that had done that. I could only name probably a couple that successfully had done that. It was Mila, Jovovich. But she started acting when she was so young and when, could go like back and forth. But so I saw an ad in a newspaper, the local newspaper, that said that if you went to this modeling school, then you would meet big agents from a big city. And I was like, begged my parents to save them money. Please let me go. And that's what happened. I met an agent from New York, and my mom and I went out over the summer, and then started working right away. And then by the time I was about 18, I knew that I learned everything that I possibly could from that industry, and had the most extraordinary opportunities to travel the world, because I really didn't when I was a kid. Before I went to New York. And then I said that I was going to quit, which people were freaking out about, because they're like, why would you quit? You're in the height of your career. And I was like, I've learned everything that I possibly can. And I want to do films. I want to make films. I have to. And I
love that, because it was like you would have been unsatisfied if you quit film.
Yeah. And I think that's I'm not built for that. I really love knowledge and I love education. And it's like, once I feel like I've mastered an area, I'm hungry to learn more and to master more. And in that area, it was like, I was really blessed and learned everything that I could. And it was like, okay, now is the time. And Daniel Waters, who wrote one of my favorite films, Heathers, had seen a photograph of me in a magazine. And Denise Denovi and Daniel Waters had reached out and asked me to audition for this film called Happy Campers. And so I auditioned. I flew out to Los Angeles and I auditioned countless times, and I ended up getting the part. And so it was myself and Brad Renfro and Justin Long and Peter Stormare. And I mean, really
Pretty good
amazing,
group.
really, really amazing cast, and with Daniel Waters directing. And so that was my first film.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty great. And
It
I
was
know
like a dream come true. I remember turning, like, they called action, and I remember turning to Justin and saying, what do I do now? He's like, now you act, which seems so ridiculous, but I had no training, I
I
had
was gonna
no,
say you didn't do theater and stuff in school, so this was
no, I didn't.
kind of brand new.
I didn't. And my training came, through the actor studio,
Yeah.
through a lot of different processes and teachers, but mainly through the actor studio. And that wasn't until, after I started doing really major films.
Was there a role that you got that you kind of said, okay, I've got this now. I figured it out.
I don't know if there ever will be. No, I take that back. Not that it's, yes, I know that I've got it and I've got it figured out. But the thing is about filmmaking is that it's consistently evolving,
Right.
and the technique evolves, and the character, and how you merge with the character. And so there are always deeper and richer opportunities to get as closer and closer to the truth, closer and closer to specificity, closer and closer to being freer in your body, freer in your voice. There's it's just, it's a muscle where you use all of your muscles, if that makes sense. It's like you're using your mind, your heart, your soul, your everything is involved as an actor. And I think, I always wondered why I get nervous or sometimes scared before I do something. And then I saw it, who was I watching an interview of? I think it was Ewan McGregor. And he said that he always gets nervous or scared.
Yeah.
And then I found that most actors do, because it means something. It doesn't mean you're living in that state. It's just,
Right.
it's very, you want to do it justice. And to be an actor requires so much vulnerability, like you're unzipping your soul,
Right.
and stepping into something that requires extreme trust in yourself and the filmmaker and the crew and the cast. And yeah, it's if it's done well, it can be scary, but that scary is also the excitement, because you're so fully present in the moment.
Right. A little bit of fright, probably a good thing, because you can kind of use it as fuel.
Yeah. I mean, there's a saying, we always say, use everything. So it's like, it does, like, sometimes, you could wake up and an actor may not feel connected to a particular scene. And it's like, okay, well, what are you feeling right now in that moment? Okay, go into that feeling, like, as a human. Okay, let's say the actor's name is the Gary. Okay, Gary, what are you feeling right now? I'm feeling frustrated that I'm not feeling connected to the scene right now. Okay, well, go into that frustration. What does that feel like? So you keep exploring inside of your own self, and whatever is happening that day, whatever it is that's going on in your own personal life, there's always an opportunity to turn that into some magical alchemy, that you can align with the character. And the more we study and understand, like, with each character, okay, I usually make like a list. I'll do a same and a different list. Okay, what are the similar qualities I have with this character?
I
How are
love
we
that.
different? So it's like, okay, she's not a mother, I am a mother too. Like, you write it all down and you find where there is that connection. And then through other research and through, I like to do a lot of dream work, like Jungian theory, things like that, and a lot of rehearsal and study, you find a way, because acting is empathy.
Right.
It's,
Yeah.
and again, so many tools that you can use, whether it's, you know, getting it in your body first, and that can help propel a scene, your imagination, you know, which seems silly, like, but sometimes you just act as if, you know, and it's really fun.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
do
really
you
fun.
do you you know, it's especially when you were first starting out, are you the type of actor that more memorizes the lines, you know, and that's kind of how you go with it, or is it you know, more where you prefer the improv side of it?
I mean, all of it. I love improving. I love improving.
Improv can
It,
be
it,
hard, but freeing, I think.
it is. It is. It's I remember when I did a film called Slackers.
Yeah.
It was myself, uh, Jason Schwartzman, Jason Segel, Laura Prepon. I mean, the cast was just,
That was a great cast for that
it
film.
was such an amazing cast. And
Especially looking back, you
yeah,
know, when you
yeah,
look back and kind of see who was in it, it's a
yeah.
good cast.
And I'd seen Jason in Rushmore, and I said, I want to work with him. I want to work with that kid. I was so stunned by his acting. And then boom, the next film I got was Slackers with him. And I remember watching him. I would consistently watch him improv. And that's the beautiful thing about you know, choosing different parts and different genres and different areas, because you learn so much technique from other filmmakers and other actors, right? And I remember being so astonished, like, how does he do that? Like, how does he feel so free? You know, how, like, maybe that's just something that only some people can do. And, you know, for me, once I see it being done, it starts to open it up inside of me of like, oh, okay, well, what can I, like I said, what can I learn from them? Or how do I ask questions about that? Or how did they start doing that thing? And, you know, now improv is definitely like one of my favorite things to do, and has been, gosh, I would say like 15, 20 years, but it depends on the project, because text is also extremely important, you
Right.
know, and memorization is necessary, because if you don't memorize the scenes, then it's not really in your gut, and then there's no structure there.
Yeah.
And so there is the responsibility to memorize the material, so it's coming out of you as if, you know, it's brand new. The whole
Right.
purpose of rehearsal is the discipline leads to the freedom, right? And you know, I've been on sets where it's like you get these brilliant like literally the most genius um comedians, and it's like a free for all if there's not at least one take where they're actually having to follow, you know, the text, because everyone just starts to like riff off of each other, and then it's like you can't cut anything together, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I can see where it could snowball pretty quick.
but it's super fun.
Oh, it has to be. Yeah. And you know what? I was looking, you know, as I was prepping for this interview and kind of going back some of the stuff you've done. I can't believe it's been over 20 years since Pearl Harbor came out.
Isn't that wild?
It just shocked me because it just seems like I mean, I know it wasn't like yesterday I went to see it, but it seems like it was just a few years ago. It's been over.
It feels like that sometimes, because I remember the feeling of it. You
Yeah.
know, I remember the feeling of her. I remember the feeling of set. I remember so so much is marked by films, you know, and certain projects. It's like a song, right? You know how certain songs just mark moments in our life,
Oh
and
yeah,
it's
of
so
course.
tangible. And the minute you hear it, you can feel it. It's like that, you know, that
Yeah, I
really,
totally get that. Like a song can take you back to a moment in time, you know, every time
yes,
you hear it.
yes.
Yeah. That's pretty great.
It
You
is crazy though, the fact that it's been 20 years. I'm actually looking up the date.
I think it was 2001.
It was 2001.
I only know that because
Was.
I saw it and it just shocked me. I was like, no way. That was like 6, 7 years ago.
It feels like that. It really does. It really does.
I mean, that was back. I mean, honestly, we were just starting to get used to using the internet. You know, at that time, more people were probably walking around with pagers than cell phones.
Oh,
It,
for sure.
you know,
And I remember it being like that, like while when it was coming out, I remember it was like a what's it called? A sidekick. Those little flippy
Yeah, the little
thingies that it's like, and it's sort of like does this jazz like it,
yeah. Those didn't last very long.
No, it didn't last very long. It did not last very long. I've never been great at technology though, so I've probably because I chose that like that was an area that I didn't want to spend all my time mastering. So now I just sort of fumble around, whether it's a sidekick or a computer. You know,
I mean, it's the kids today are much better with technology than any of us were because they grew up with
it. Like their life.
Yeah, they grew up with it.
Yeah.
You know, like my parents, they think I'm the technical expert. And I'm not. I can maybe figure it out. It takes me 10 times as long as one of the grandkids.
Yep.
Put them on there.
Yep, exactly.
My son handles the hard stuff. I just show up and talk. He handles all the hard stuff. Used to be on a show that I absolutely loved at the time called Gary Unmarried.
Yes.
And I thought it was such a good show. And it didn't really, I mean, it was out for a few years, but it never really got the chance I thought it deserved. But part of the reason I loved it so much was because your character kept showing up.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
You're really good on there.
Thank you. That was fun to do. I love Jimmy Burrows, the director, and he's like the legend. I learned everything about, for camera from him. I mean, he did like Will and Grace and, Cheers. And I mean,
Cheers is probably still my favorite show
ever. Unreal. Just, he's like so unreal. And so I really, really love working with him. We did that show together. We did another, 4Cam together. That was a great cast. It was Jesse Tyler Ferguson, Lucy Punch, Lizzie Kaplan, myself, John Barthol, Jason Ritter. And right when we got nominated, I think it was like a People's Choice Award. Like, oh, we get canceled and then get nominated for a People's Choice Award.
That was
and you look back at this cast and it was like, whoa, we had so much fun. Yeah. It was so great.
That show was good. And it was getting awards. It's
just funny.
It like that show needed to be on a streamer today where it may have gotten more life than it didn't get enough play.
That's true. It's but it's just such a different time. Yeah. Like the way that all media is consumed is just so different. And to get a show like that, it's like the process of even getting a show at that time, and even still now, I think that people don't really understand how many times actors are rejected if they even ever get an opportunity to get one credit, to get even one opportunity to audition for something. It's like,
that's why acting's so hard, because you have to really have thick skin. I mean, to handle the rejection part of it, because you're gonna get a no 10 times more than a yes.
I was looking at the statistics with my kids the other day, and it was something like 0.000. I mean, it was.
Yeah, it's a lot of zeros.
Basically, it's like, don't be an actor. Don't become an actor. Yeah. Like, it's literally the hardest thing to do. And then the living wage, which is not really a living wage.
No, it's not even close.
Actors even work, or like, I think it's like $16,000 a year.
Yeah. I mean, you think about that. That's nothing.
It's nothing.
You can't survive on that.
No, you can't.
Which is why so many
actors that are like hustle and they do 3-4 jobs, That's why the strike that we've been on, was so important.
Did you hit the lines any?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was in LA. I can't remember when that was, but I was going, because I've got a lot of friends who are actors. I was going to go down and check it out, kind of go down and see the picket lines. It was 110 degrees.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I was like, I'm friends with you guys, but
Yep. And then all like even throughout like the like WJ SAG, the one thing I remember getting down the first day and they're like, oh, we're closed. I'm like, bros, I just got off work. It's like because I was writing no, I wasn't writing. I was rehearsing at the studio play, which you're allowed to do because it's not it has nothing to do with the studio. That's the great thing about the actor studios. You can go there and you rehearse because it's not work. It's not for work. It's exercising the muscle. And I'm like, it's not even, it's like 2. It's the first day. We can't just stop at 2. They're like, it's going to be it's too hot,
Well, I mean, most of those, you're on concrete or asphalt.
Yep.
That's
yep.
good.
Yep.
Yeah, it was too much for me. I was like, okay, no.
Like, okay. But you showed up. We appreciate it.
I didn't stick around, but I showed up.
You showed up, and that's all that matters.
That's what I was telling some of my friends. I was like, I will be here, probably in a bar with a drink, but I'll be there for you when you get done.
But I'm here supporting you, and you do, because this podcast supports actors. This podcast supports the creators, and that's what we need. We need the support. We, to share with people about what we love, because to do this craft, it's like when people are like, how do you become an actor? I'm like, you have to, oh, excuse me. It's like, hey, Petey, let me do that real quick. You have to love it so much that it aches if you don't do it.
Yeah.
Like it hurts. Like there's no like plan
Well,
B.
why would you do it otherwise? To go through all of the struggle, the lack of money, the rejection. Why would you go through all that if you didn't love it?
Yeah, it's the need to be present and connect with humanity for me. Like I like films and art changed my life. It has marked my life forever. It will always. It showed me that I wasn't alone ever since I was a little kid, and
was that different than modeling? Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Not being alone type of thing. I'm not sure. Is modeling? It seems like it could be lonely at times.
Oh, I mean, 100%. That's why. That's not why I stopped when I was, the reason why. I haven't modeled since I was like 18. But just I think certain people gravitate towards watching films and watching TV shows. So, like I was just always that kind of kid, anything like that. I wanted to, I was enamored by artists, and I still am. Yeah. It never gets old. I'm always in awe. It's just, it makes me want to cry.
Yeah, I love that, because there's a part of you that's a fan too.
I'm the most hardcore fan.
Me too. That's probably, there's a zillion reasons why I couldn't act, but that's a big one, because I would be that guy. I couldn't turn it off if I was around people that I was, admired.
You shouldn't. I don't. If there ever comes, I said this to Contessa not the other day, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I was like, if there ever comes a point, which I know there just won't ever be a point where I'm not like, sometimes, speaking of like aching, like I was going to one of my best friends was was screening his film for the Academy.
Yeah.
And I was so nervous to go because I knew it would be so good, that my heart was already aching with joy.
Love that.
You know what I mean? Like it's like that feeling. And how can we not be fans of it? It doesn't matter if someone's on the screen or not on the screen. I fangirl a lot about, the production designers, about like costume, because it's a family, and the amount of detail is so extraordinary to me. And ultimately, I'm a fan because I love human beings and I love humanity, and I love humanity so deeply that I feel such a connection to humanity and to our oneness, and to also to our separation. That's the reason why I tell stories. I tell stories because I'm innately connected and fascinated by this world and what people do.
I love that answer. That's terrific. Yeah, that's really good. Is there a person out there that if you had to show up on set to work with, that you'd be like, oh my gosh, like just fan out?
That's a really tough. I mean, that's a tough question.
I
I've been
know.
in many instances in which I have fanned out like hardcore.
Yeah.
One was Michael Keaton,
Oh my gosh.
and I was literally like 2 hours before this, right? It was during the Oscars, and I was going to there's this fancy party called the Vanity Fair Oscar party.
Yeah.
And it's a whole brouhaha, like it's a whole thing. And we were discussing, if not debating, who the best Batman was. And
Easy.
I mean, unilaterally, it was, I mean, I'm obsessed with him.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite actors. And
Mine
of
too.
course, arrived there, and I have a lot of social anxiety, and I'm very much an introvert. Which may seem strange as someone that does what I do. I feel safe when I'm on the set. I feel safe when I'm in like a unit, like that, or at a theater. But when it comes to being social or being around a lot of people, like I get really like,
See, I get that. I'm an introvert, and it surprised me that so many actors are really introverted, and they say the similar things. They feel safe on stage because they're putting
mhm,
on that persona, but just by themselves, they're like me. You need your downtime. You need away from, kind of decompress, and you
big time.
get a little nervous because the introvertedness.
Yes, yeah, big time.
Yeah.
And I found like a lot of the times I just end up creating errands for myself. Like if I have to go, if there's something like really important like that to go to, besides the 20 million times inside of myself that I try and come up with a reason to back out of going to the thing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I
because
do.
I really get that really like I don't belong here kind of thing. And and it's not about self-confidence or self-esteem. It's just I can be real quiet.
Yeah.
And so I decided that I would be the person to go, get waters for everyone, or who the group of people that I came. I'm like, let me just shuffle through. I'll go run an errand right now, because then if I'm moving, then maybe I won't feel so anxious. And cut to, I get to the bar and I look over and it's freaking Michael Keaton. I wanted to die, and I just looked at him. I was like, I have to tell you this. Da 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 da. Because if it's one on one, like, and I can, because all of a sudden he's right there, but I can make that one on one, but I'm just like what kind of magic is that? It's just amazing. So to answer your question, I I've had like to gosh, to pick someone would be really hard because there's so many artists I feel. Hmm.
That's why I get paid the big bucks.
Like, and I've also been very lucky because at things like that, it's like I've been able to meet the people that I
You've
most
worked with
admire in like
amazing
these
people.
crazy ways where I'm just like, how am I in front of how am I getting to talk to this person right now? Like, this is just,
Yeah.
it leaves you like gobsmacked. Um,
That's a good word for it, I think.
yeah.
Yeah. I've got a
Frances McDormand.
ooh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
I
I
would,
loved her
I
ever
would,
since
I
Fargo.
would kill. I think she's just so exquisite.
She's amazing. Like
She's
I would watch her
unfreaking believable.
just I don't know, just reading a menu, whatever she
Literally anything.
I've got kind of a funny Michael Keaton story. Doesn't involve him.
I want to hear.
I was in LA and I was staying at the Roosevelt, there
Yes.
from across from the Chinese Theater. Well, if you walk, let's see, if you exit left Roosevelt, go down a block and then up, there's an ice cream place there.
Yeah.
I can't
Kind of by where sometimes Beetlejuice is. The fake Beetle.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So I go into that ice cream shop, get my ice cream cone. There's only one person in there working, a gentleman. And I go up to the counter and he says, you kind of look like Michael Keaton. It's been a few years back, so maybe there was a little resemblance at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't see it, but okay. So I was like, yeah.
Maybe that's where my reference came from.
Maybe. So I said, yeah, I get that. I get that a lot. And I didn't, but I didn't know what to say to that. So that's why I said I get that a lot. So then he looks at me for a minute and he says, "Are you Michael Keaton?"
That's when it's a toss up. It's like, do I roll with this and just go?
I know. That's
where you get to improv. That's where you get to.
If I was better at that, then maybe I could have went through it, but I didn't. But
I think you're pretty good at improving because you interviewed so many people. That requires a lot of improv, I think, in some way, shapes, or form. It requires a focus, an intent, a goal, an like you have an objective.
Yeah.
You have a want, you have a need, right? You want to entertain. You have information, knowledge about that person. It's basically like the same thing as doing a seed. What's the want? What's the need? What's the intent? What's the objective? Once you know that, you already have that structure.
Yeah, I love that.
You can have open and honest and like free flowing conversations that can kind of go anywhere and still have the structure of what you created. So that's improv, my friend.
You've made me feel better about it because I've had actors on the show who have tried to improv with me, and I am terrible.
Well, you know the rule, right?
No.
The rules of improv?
Yeah, tell me.
Well, technically, it's really yes and.
Oh, I have heard that rule.
Don't say no. No saying no.
Yeah, you never say no during improv.
Yeah, it's just yes and, basically. Contessa, when you say those, would be? Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually really good. I had an actress on that she was trying to teach me to improv. She's really good at improv. And we were doing it. We were in a library. So my son that does podcast with me, he's a librarian. So that was where we were, in the library.
This is so crazy. I can't believe you just said that.
Really? Do you know him?
No. It's really interesting because one of my dearest girlfriends was over last night and she does something really cool called niche manifestations. And now it's like blowing up. And I'm so proud of her because talk about improv. She's a brilliant comedian, a brilliant actor, a brilliant writer. And I've just been waiting. Like I met her, at a restaurant that she was serving in. And I always wanted her to be my server. She was like my favorite server at this place. And there was someone that wrote in on Patreon that wants a job at a library. And so last night we were doing a niche manifestation for this person about helping to manifest the job. She's now I know this person's going to get the job now. I know it. I know this sounds very quirky and very interesting, but my kid was in there helping us. He's like, the smell of the pages. And like, it would get very specific. It's like doing some sense memory exercise, but yeah.
See, I believe in
I have to tell
put out positive energy or put out thoughts of things that you want to happen. I believe that they can occur.
Energy follows thought. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm doing the improv. It's going pretty well. We're going kind of back and forth. Well, then in whatever she said that I was responding to, and I think we were talking about the Dewey Decimal System, something like that. But
I missed the Dewey Decimal System. Does it still exist anymore? Do people use it?
It does not. It's all online. I had to ask my son, but he told me it's all online. So I know. I love that. I love going.
Not the same. Not the same. Without the microfiche, it's not the same.
It's not. It's not. So I'm talking, and during my answer to whatever she said, she just whispers, "I love you." like, and in character, she was trying to.
That's perfect. What a great thing to throw out there.
Well, the better part was it completely threw me off.
Yes, as it should.
I had no idea what to say to that. So then I'm just like,
That's where you're gonna lean into it more. That's the fun part. She must have been really fun to improv with. She sounds like she's a fun one to improv with.
Yeah. Allison Dunbar.
Yes.
She's the
amazing. Best. Brilliant actor.
She's really good. So I wanted to ask you, are you a comic book fan? You've been in a few things.
Yeah, I think you could probably tell what I'm a fan of just by looking at the things that I have done.
I owned a couple comic stores when I was in college. That's what I did to put myself through school. Frank Miller was always one of my favorites. You know, Sin City was amazing, and I thought such a good job adapting it. Like when you watch those movies, it's like reading the comic. It's so well done.
Yes, it is the graphic novel. Because you know, with that, Frank never wanted nor was willing to sell the rights to Sin City, and Robert Rodriguez, he paid for the proof of concept. So the opening scene of Sin City with Marley and Josh, you know, he did all by himself, paid for it all. And, you know, Robert's a genius, duh.
He is, yeah.
Jack of all trades, so he does it all. And brought that and showed that to Frank in order to convince him to please let him to show him that he would be so honest and so truthful to it. And nothing like that had been done before, you know. And so, and also, if I'm not mistaken, he quit the guild so that Frank and him could co-direct. And
really?
yeah, and because in the guild you can't, in the DGA you can't co-direct, and if you already are in it, it has to be like there's this, like you have to be like a brother.
I didn't know that.
It's a whole kind of specific thing. But I'd have to look at the new amendments of the contract. But either way, when I was doing White Chicks, and I got a call saying that Rodriguez was a very big fan of mine, and
those movies are completely different.
I mean, yeah, that's what I love to do. I love to do all those.
Yeah,
that's another reason. I mean, I really want to do White Chicks because I always want to learn from the best.
Yeah,
and those are some of the best people you could ever learn comedy from.
Yeah,
and the reason why they're the best at it, some of the best at it, is because it's all rooted in drama. It's all rooted in honesty. It's all rooted in truth. And then that's what makes it so funny, because you can go totally out there,
right?
So long as it's rooted in the truth for the character, doesn't matter what you say or what you do. You know, it's all about it's talk about a big trust thing, you know, and that's what comedy requires. But either way, Robert's a fan. He wanted me to come back to Los Angeles to audition for this confidential project. Even the agency didn't know what the project was or what it was about. He wouldn't tell anyone. So I went to go to the Four Seasons and knock on the door as Robert Rodriguez, Mary Vernew, casting director, who's creme, like the best of the best. And then in the corner was this guy with a fedora sitting behind me.
Was that Frank?
Yeah. And Robert just handed me the graphic novel, handed me Sin City, and said, would you mind just reading with me? Then I was like, okay. So it's what we call a cold read, which you know what that means. But when you're just reading for the first time and you're reading it out loud, never read, you know, so you have no information on the project, no information on the and I don't know why I hadn't read that before, you know, just in terms of someone that loves.
Well, were you a comic book fan before that?
I was growing up, and then it was like, you know, I get into certain things and I go fully into like that one direction, this, and you know what I mean? Like, but I think it was like that during, wait, well, I don't want to get, I'm going to start going down graphic novel, comic book genre lane. So I'm going to pull myself back for a second.
Well, I was gonna say, go ahead. I can go
You
down
know,
that journey
I'm going
with
to pull
you.
myself back for a minute. So yeah, so imagine being handed a book that you know nothing about, and you're sitting in front of Robert Rodriguez, and there's a stranger in a corner, and you can't really see them.
Yeah, in a fedora.
In a fedora, like with the hat down, and I'm just like, okay, that's got to be someone from casting. I don't know. Doesn't really like it. All that matters right now is I'm just, I open it up, and rather than Robert having, some person reading there with me, it was Robert, so it was he's reading with me. I see he's like, will you read these two twins, Wendy and Goldie? And it was so interesting because as soon as I saw the image, my body changed. The octave of my voice dropped. And it was like I knew who this person was.
Wow.
And that's this ephemeral, is that the word? Ephemeral?
Yeah.
Thing
Ephemeral.
about
Yeah.
About this thing called life and art and things like that. But he said, I want to show you something. So we did that, and that was maybe like, I don't know, it wasn't for very long. And then he told me he wanted to show me something, and he showed me the opening of what it would look like. He took me to a separate room and showed me that what he was going to be doing. And I was speechless
I bet.
because I'm like, how the hell did he do what? How did he do that? And he's like, it's all green screen, dot, 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 dot. And I was like, wait, huh? Like I couldn't wrap my mind around it. Then so again, I flew in for the day, get off, go in, do this reading, leave, get on the plane, go finish another 4 months on White Chicks. Don't hear a peep, not a freaking word, but I was there doing my job, and and came back, and then I was doing Kitchen Confidential with Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
And
Bradley
John Francis
before he was
Daley
Bradley.
and Frank Langella and those amazing actors. And but I found out, just like I get a call out of the blue, like boom, yeah, you got cast in this film. And when I went to film it, it was no joke. It was all green screen. It was just Mickey and I. And I grew up with Rosario. We met with Dawson. We met when we were like 14 in New York City.
Oh, really?
We always wanted to work together. And then, of course, we're joking that we were working together, but technically with X's. So the amount of because there's an X on the ground, there's a this, but it was really just me, Mickey, a couple of props. There's that one scene where, I'm driving down in the speeding down in the Porsche, and the car is not like, the car is just barely moving. It's just doing this on like this, like that slow. And the steering wheel doesn't move. And it's like Beyonce fans before she even, like, it was like, and I was like, oh, Robert, I feel like I look like an asshole. Like, he was like, you got to trust me, kid. Like, and I was like, of all the people, I would do anything for him. And I did, I deeply trusted him. But when, and what I really enjoyed about that process, it's like, okay, and he'd be like, okay, well, here's a wall. Well, there was no wall there or whatever. So it was really like being a child, like where everything was make believe. You had to feel it in your body. You know what I mean? And believe the circumstances, believe that you were in a saloon, believe like there were certain, elements that were there in terms of production design. But when I walked out of the cast screening, Clive Owen turns to me and he's like, I've never seen anything like it. I was like, I have never seen. Do you know what I mean? Because it's hard to wrap your head around.
Well, yeah, because it's never been done.
It was so amazing. And Frank is like my family. Robert's my family. They'll forever be my family.
I mean, it was
very,
like
very, 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 very
reading
close.
a graphic novel, basically, but you're watching it.
Yep.
Yeah. That's
awesome.
amazing. Well, and you got to do you had a part there in Bulletproof Monk, which is also based on a graphic novel.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought pretty great. Did you have to, you know, did you train growing up, or did you have to train specifically for that movie, martial arts wise?
When I was younger, I did some martial arts. I was a dancer, a gymnast. And like, I'm very strong, and I really love strength and power. And for that particular one, yeah, I trained for many months, so badly, like no one could even go pee, like no one could sit down on a toilet because it was like, because like your everything hurt so bad. I remember Sean was
if you're not
you
used
can't
to
even sit on a
using
freaking
muscle.
toilet at that point. Like it was like, because we were training like 8 hours a day at least for several months, doing with, it was like guys from the Matrix and and like, doing the coolest stuff. I remember at one point I was trained to run across on the floor, run up a freaking wall, up a ceiling, and back down on wires. So it was amazing. Amazing. And when you experience that kind of strength and power in yourself, and it takes dedication, obviously an extreme discipline, everything you eat, everything that you do, but it's all about that character, and um it's all about that commitment. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I forgot about The Spirit, which was more based on a newspaper strip, but it was also a comic.
Yeah, it was. It was. I have so many. It's funny. Because I recently moved in here, and I've been still unpacking and finding a lot of Frank's little drawings and notes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, I know. I'm such a fan of his, and he's always been such a good writer. And I don't blame him for not wanting to put his stuff on screen until somebody came along and could actually do it justice.
I agree. And I think it's really cool, it's really I don't think people ever truly understood the power of comic books and graphic novels. I think that it took people way Jim Lee, I'm sure you know.
I know Jim Lee.
Yeah, so I had an idea, and I called Jim, and I was like, we should do this. We should do this. I want to do a reality series about, comic artists, colorists, dot, 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 dot. And
I
Jim's
would
like,
have watched that
we should
show.
call it From Zero to Hero. I was like, that would be fantastic. And we went and we pitched it, and they're like, no one really cares that much about. And I was like,
Well, they're wrong. They were very wrong.
they were so freaking wrong. This was like, gosh, like I don't know, 13, 14. But I'm like, do you guys not understand that, like, really, you know what I mean? Like, and I was just like, oh great. So I couldn't wrap my head around it. And now look,
revisit that.
Oh, I just pitched the entire well, now it's out there.
It's out there.
It's out there.
I could help with that.
Yeah.
I don't know how, but I feel like I could help with that.
Yeah. Now we could do that in like 2 seconds. I just think it'd be really fun to give people an opportunity to share their work in that way, because it's never really been done before. And, to share that side of the craft.
I love that. I was talking with someone today, actually, about comic conventions in the 80s, 90s. It was just about the comic books. It was
exactly. Well, Frank and I were talking about that. We were talking about that when we went for, what one was it? For Sin City.
Mm-hmm.
And it was me, Jess, Rosario, us three, Robert and Frank. And he's like, it was never 30,000 plus people in a convention, like in a room. It's like, it's just the Comic Cons, et cetera, et cetera. He's like, it was just about the books.
Yeah, that's all it was. I used to say I did, I worked so many conventions that I got friendly with Stan Lee, and at
Yeah.
that time you could just walk up to him and have a conversation. It was no big deal. You go and he would stop and talk to you for 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, today when
Oh no.
you got to wait in line for a couple hours and probably pay to get
So
that
much money.
a 2-minute conversation with somebody.
It's really wild. It's really it shows you the power of fans.
Yeah, it does.
And it also shows you the power of capitalism.
It does.
and how sometimes things can be corrupted. And how I'm like, oh, some people need to make their own mini cons. Do you know what I mean? Like where I know there's a lot of those too, but you know what I mean?
I mean, I do think that it's become much more inclusive, which that's a plus.
Yes, thank God.
I like the cosplay aspect. I think
I
that
love the cosplay
yeah,
aspect of
and
it.
that
I'm
was a
super into
positive.
that.
But I do miss the days when it was just about the artists and the writers.
Yes. Yes.
It was just a different time. Rosario is doing live action Star Wars. Maybe it's time for you to step into that.
Well, I mean, I haven't done it live action yet, but
I know you've done the voices, but there's no reason you couldn't step from.
Oh, I know. Listen, George is like a dad to me, and when speaking of Comic-Con, that's when I first met Dave Filoni. I met Dave at the Comic-Con when Sam and I were there for the Spirit.
Yeah.
And we were talking to some of our friends up, our Skywalker friends, and I met Dave there, and they were just writing the Clone Wars, and then he'd asked me to come in as Orsing, and whenever typically I wrap a film or a show, I go up to the ranch and spend my time there.
Nice.
I mean, which is extremely like.
That sounds crazy to even say.
It sounds crazy to say that out loud, right? It sounds crazy to say that out loud, but that's a fact. And I'm so thankful. I am so thankful for George Lucas and for all of those guys. Talk about, I mean, just the brilliance of Star Wars was my mom's favorite movie, and she'd watch it over and over and over in the theaters. I mean, and I probably seen everything Star Wars 5 billion times. But yeah, so, and one of the last things that we did for the Clone Wars, I did all of the voices besides Yoda for the Force Priestesses. And I'll never forget that feeling, because George had just I decided to sell Lucasfilm. And I remember walking out of the booth, and I had the script in my hands, and I put it in the garbage because I don't want anything confidential, obviously, to ever leave. I don't want anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't want anything like that. And
how bad would you feel if you were the leak?
I mean, that would suck. It'd be awful.
Yeah.
But I remember that feeling of thinking, like, this will be like the last of George Lucas canon.
Yeah, that's a weird feeling.
And it was so amazing. Like, again, I'm like, that full moon from last night or the night before is still kicking it. Last night is still like working on me. But yeah. I would happily do live action. And also, like, then Dave wasn't doing live action. And it was and really wanted to. That's what he wanted to do. And so
I'm
so proud of him, and
he's
so proud
of it now, right?
What'd you say?
He's like the main guy now. Yeah.
I love it. There's nothing better than seeing people with a dream, someone that is like an honest to God, great human being like Dave is, that works his butt off and has like, you know, is so dedicated and so loyal to what it is that they do, and to watch them thrive and grow and dream of doing live action one day, and asking to come to sets, or asking like, you know, to, like questions, you know, about like how to do, get into it, da, 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 to then seeing that, it's like, holy, it shows you that anything is possible with perseverance. When I say anything is possible, I'm saying it's like, we're all living examples of that, and to watch him thrive and the success of it just makes my heart so happy for him and his family, and you know, the whole crew, every actor, all the crew members, all the fans, you know,
Yeah,
all the fans.
I know.
I get very, you know, I'll go on and on about that whole world. So I'm gonna just be quiet now because I
Well,
love it that
yeah, I
much.
was going to say it's probably time I wrap things up, but I have to mention, because both of my girls said if you don't mention Heart of Dixie, I'm in trouble.
Yes. What are your girls' names?
Ashley and Allie.
Ashley and Ellie.
I call them girls, but they're women now, have their own kids. But yeah, go ahead. I interrupted you.
You didn't interrupt me. I just wanted to know their names so I could say hi
Yeah.
to them.
Well, they love Heart of Dixie, and I remember, when the show was on, they would sit and watch that together. Which there's a few years in between them, so at that time, especially in the teenage years, to get them to sit together and do anything was difficult. But they would sit and watch the show. So they both individually told me, make sure you mention Heart of Dixie.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That means a lot. Lemon Breland is one of my favorite humans on the planet.
You can't
That
beat the name of
that
Lemon.
show was
It's a good show.
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, Lemon is me and I'm her. You know, that's like when you're playing a character for that many years and you're developing that character, and that is, I'm so thankful for how much joy it brought to me. And I raised, my first son was born, basically on that set. I shot until the day before I gave birth, came
Right.
back after 6 weeks. And he was with me every single day, and Heart of Dixie is one of those shows that I feel extremely proud of,
Yeah.
because of the joy it brings people. And so that's really what it's about. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Do you do conventions?
I do conventions, yes.
All right. All right. I'm asking because we cover a lot of conventions. Hopefully I'll get to see you in person at some point.
I would love that. I
Yeah.
would love that. I mean, once the pandemic, and even before that, because I was doing Black Summer, it was sort of like back to back shooting, and my son just went to New York Comic Con. Now they're prepping to go to LA like a lot of the cons now.
They're back.
I know. I need to.
Well, Jamie, thank you so much. I really
Thank you
appreciate
so
the
much. I
time.
so appreciate your generosity.
Oh, you're so welcome. I could talk to you all night. You'll have to at some point come back.
I would love that. I would love that.
It'd be fun. It'd be fun.
Yes,
So a couple little things though before we wrap up. Anything that you're currently working on that we can keep an eye out for?
Oh my gosh.
That you're allowed to talk about. I know how that goes.
I have like
You got a bunch.
yeah, it's so top secret. I can't say it. That's just one of them. Actually, like 3 of them.
Is it a live action Star Wars show?
Everything is Star Wars.
Well, okay, I'll ask you an easier one. Yeah, I assume when you're allowed to talk about that stuff, you'll put that out on social media. So where can we find you there?
I'm Jaime, Jaime, _King, King.
Yeah, you came right up when I looked for you. Yeah, it was pretty easy. You put your name in, it popped right up.
That's good news.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
I guess I
unlike,
hope. One would hope.
well, if like with my name, if you put in Mike Wall, there's like 100 people that come up.
Yeah, that's true. But it's also the spelling, because
The
most
spelling
people
helps.
probably wouldn't remember how to spell my name, but it's spelled like Jamie after the Bionic Woman, Jamie Summers.
Oh, I meant
Yeah.
to ask you about that because, I grew up watching Bionic Woman, $6 Million Man. I'm
Yes,
assuming that maybe your mother was a fan.
a big fan.
Yeah.
She wanted me to be real strong.
I assumed I didn't know until I was prepping that you were named, after her character. Um, but I suspected that maybe you were because of the spelling.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
All my love to you. God bless you and your family. Thank you for having me on. Send my love to everyone and all the grandbabies. I'm
Thank
very
you so
thankful.
much, Jamie. It's been terrific. Once we post, I'll send you over all the links.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hold on one second. Listen, I'm. This is how much this interview meant to me. I'm all leaned back, relaxed. Jamie was amazing. I knew she would be. We were supposed to talk, I think last week, maybe the week before. We had to reschedule. I always get nervous when we have to reschedule when it's somebody I really am excited to talk to because things come up, and actors especially very busy. So I was very conscious of her time, but she made the time to come on, and that was wonderful, especially for an old comic book guy like me. We got to really kind of together geek out a little bit about Sin City and Star Wars and the Spirit and uh, all of that. Bulletproof Monk. There's I'm so happy that she's a fan, and hopefully she gets the comic book artist show running at some point. I would love to watch that or to lend some of this useless knowledge in my head too. There was a time uh, where every single comic book that came out, I read. I mean, it helped that I, owned a couple stores, so I was getting all of them for the store, but I read all of them. And, those comics from the 70s and the 80s, the 90s, that's what's getting made into all of these movies and TV shows now. So it is just the absolute best time for me, but that's a whole other episode. I could talk comic books nonstop. I would wear you out. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Obviously, Jamie has had such a terrific career. We couldn't hit everything in an hour, and we went a little past, which, shame on me, but they were such good stories. But I wanted to ask her about Ocean's 8, Barely Lethal, Cheaper by the Dozen too. I loved her in that. She mentioned White Chicks. We talked Pearl Harbor, Black Summer. She just brought out. She plays Rose. She voiced some of the characters in Transformers, Power of the Primes. Talked about Heart of Dixie and the Clone Wars. She did a motion comic for Spartacus, which was really good, Blood and Sand. Kitchen Confidential was one I wanted to bring up because Bradley Cooper was on it, and it was in maybe 2006, 2007, so before he became such a huge star. She had a guest appearance on the OC. She did House of Style with Rebecca Romijn, which was awesome. And I think that may have been while she was still modeling, but I may have that time messed up. I used to be, I still am, but used to be especially when I worked at Ticketmaster, was a big Incubus fan, and my boss at the time, Eric, was an even bigger Incubus fan, and we went to a couple of the concerts together. Jamie starred in the "Wish You Were Here" video, so I always remember that. Of course, My Bloody Valentine. She played Sarah, I think, in that one. I'm big chicken when it comes to scary movies and gore, so I have seen that one, but only partially because I have my eyes closed part of the time. She played Johnny Depp's daughter briefly in Blow, which I thought was awesome. And then the last thing I'll mention, she mentioned her relationship with Rosario Dawson. She's also very close with Jessica Alba. I think Jessica is maybe a godmother to one of her boys, and Taylor Swift is a godmother to one of her children, which is pretty crazy to say all of that. That just boggles my mind, especially now with Taylor being so popular. And I've always been a Jessica Alba fan back when she was doing Dark Angel and then playing Sue Storm in Fantastic Four. I always thought she was terrific. Oh, and the last one, comic book and Star Wars related, was Fanboys, where she played Amber. So I hope you enjoyed that. That's a lot, and I'm still leaving a ton out. Her career has just been amazing, and I remember when she was modeling. Obviously, she was really, really good at that as well. But my opinion, so much better as an actress. I think she's just incredible. If you guys are finding us for the first time, thank you for watching. We are closing in on episode 700. We have talked to just amazing people. The majority of our episodes are celebrity interviews. Brett occasionally comes on camera with me, and we just geek out and talk about whatever's going on that we're interested in. Those are my favorite episodes when it's just me and Brett. But you can find all 700 episodes, audio and video, on our website, meistercon.com. Please check those out. I'm so proud of the guest list that we have had. I would take our guests and put them up against any other podcast, any other talk show, anything. So proud of that. Jaime is definitely one of my favorite interviews that I've done. That was amazing. If you would like to support us, or if you're finding us for the first time, there's a couple easy ways to do that. They're both free. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. We're really trying to grow that. All we ask is that you subscribe. It's free. There's a ton of stuff on there. If you don't want to watch the whole interviews, we have a ton of clips on there that you can check out as well. But we would really appreciate that subscription. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, imdb.com, just recently named us one of its top 100 podcasts. As a kind of accidental podcaster, it amazes me that we have gotten to the point that anybody would include us on a top 100 list, let alone IMDb. Just amazing. I think the last time I checked, there was over 15 million podcasts, and it's growing daily. And we came in at number 82 on a top 100 list that is populated by the Joe Rogans and the Disneys and the Marvels of the world. Just amazing. If you can go to imdb.com, look up the Too Opinionated podcast, that's all you have to do. Just bring the page up. That traffic on the page really helps us out. You can also check out everybody that's been on the podcast in the past. It'll have every episode listed, so you can check us out there. Thank you guys so much. You can tell how excited I got. I'm losing my voice. It's amazing. This was the third interview in a row that I've done today. Great way to end my podcasting day. Thank you guys so much. Till next time. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm once again here to ask for your support. It's been a big year for the Too Opinionated podcast. Back in February, we got to live out a dream, moderate for William Shatner here in our hometown. In May, we passed 100,000 downloads on our YouTube channel, and we followed that up in June with 50,000 downloads on the audio side. We recently posted our 600th episode, which is pretty good volume for just a father and son operation. Not too many podcasts can keep that volume up. We've been doing this now for 4.5 years, 600 plus episodes. We recently hit 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which is a really big deal for us because we've always gotten the views, but have struggled to get people to subscribe. So that 1,000 was a big deal for us. And best of all, we were recently named one of the top podcasts on IMDb, which is the entertainment database. You know, those that are ahead of us, we came in at number 82. Those that are ahead of us are bigger companies like Disney, mostly Marvel, and Joe Rogan, that type of podcast. So for us, being just a small West Virginia father and son podcast, to be in the top 100 out of 15 million, it's a pretty big deal for us. So thank you for everything you've done for us so far. Got a couple little ways, though, that you can help us, and they're free and they're really easy. If you haven't checked out our YouTube channel yet, please go to YouTube. It's under MeisterCon Pod. Just hit subscribe. It's free, doesn't cost you anything, really helps us a ton. And maybe even more important, if you could go to imdb.com, look up the Too Opinionated podcast, and just look around the page. Just having that traffic on the page really helps us out. So that's a couple easy ways that you can support us, even if you're not listening or watching all of the time. And we want you to listen and watch, because I think that our guest list, I would put up against anybody, any other show, podcast, anybody out there. I think our guest list holds up. So please check us out. You probably will find somebody that you like, or maybe somebody that you didn't know you liked, but kind of discovered them on there. There's tons of that. If you're into music, we have that too. If you like books, we've got authors on there. If you're more into what goes on behind the scenes in the entertainment world, you know, we've got producers, directors, video artists, anything you can think of that happens behind the scenes, we've had them on the show. So definitely check us out. Thank you guys so much. Until next time. Bye, everybody.